this Thanksgiving week, what I wanted to do with you this morning is share a story with you that you might not have ever heard before. You might have, and I'm sure you'll let me know afterwards, but I know some of you, this will be news. It's the true story of a man by the name of Squanto. Anybody know the story of Squanto? Squanto to Thanksgiving is as important as St. Nicholas is to Christmas. You know how we always hear Jesus is the reason for the season? Well, we can kind of say the same thing about Squanto and Thanksgiving. Squanto was a Native American who made the difference between life and death for the arriving pilgrims. First of all, let me tell you a little bit about those pilgrims. We hear a lot about them, right? But you might not be aware that there were just 102 pilgrims that came over to this land. And all of them came here, folks, to get away from what? Religious oppression. That's why they came. Now that's not many people. Maybe twice the number of what we have in this sanctuary this morning. Now think about it for a minute, what these people had to give up. Can you imagine this morning having to leave your homes, your homeland, your country because of religious oppression? Keep in mind what you're giving up, because a lot of your extended family, right, and your friends aren't going to come with you, are they? And you'll never, probably ever, see them again. But you are so committed to what you believe, to these unity truth principles, you're so strong in your desire to know God that you're willing to give up everything that you've ever known to come to a new land to be spiritually free. Over the years, you know, I have met people like this in Unity. I really have, who have done just that. Not necessarily left their home country, but some have. But many who have had to leave family and friends that were of a certain religion, right? I mean, some folks are even disowned for getting involved with Unity, with New Thought, with these radical new, and they're not new, very, very old and ancient truth principles. It takes great courage inside of a person to do this. It takes great spiritual courage to go that extra mile. And that was true of this little band of pilgrims. People who are willing to put their lives on the line for what they spiritually believed in. Here we have 102 people boarding a ship. It was a wooden ship. What was it called? The Mayflower. Do you feel like you're in elementary school? But you know, it was a vessel with no luxuries. It's not like the cruises we go on today. You know, and what is waiting for them on the other side? As far as they know, right, nothing. Nothing but God. And their ability to worship that God in the way that they wanted to. So they got on board this ship and they set to sea for 120 days. And they were met with a lot of adversity right off the bat with the weather. A lot of turbulence, and it took much longer than they anticipated, and they were almost running out of their food and water. Until finally they arrived in what is now called Plymouth. The year was 1620, the date was December 11th. And with absolutely nothing there for them, they were about to face a severe and bitter cold winter. They docked the ship, put down the anchor, and came to this foreign land in rowboats. And they stood up on that beach with the icy winds in their face, and they moved forward, and they began to try to establish themselves. But in the months that followed, almost 1/2 of the pilgrims died. All of them would have died if if it hadn't been for Squanto. All of them. Squanto was really one of the founding fathers of this country as we know it today. He gave his all to these pilgrims, even when he didn't have much time left to give. I'll get clearer in a minute. By the time the snows had melted, followed by a very hot summer, in the fall at harvest time, there were only 56 pilgrims left. And that would be about us in this room, so just look around. But thanks to Squanto, they had wonderful crops to harvest. So for that very first Thanksgiving dinner, there were 91 Native Americans and 56 pilgrims, totaling 147 people. Just a side note to let you know, because I thought this was interesting to tell you who cooked the dinner. Of all the pilgrims, only 4 adult women survived. And they're the ones who prepared the meal with 2 teenage girls. Hasn't, no, anyway, I'm over there. It's often thought that, this was the very first Thanksgiving dinner ever held. But the pilgrims came from a very rich history of Thanksgiving celebrations that they were well aware of. The Greeks honored the goddess of agriculture in a Thanksgiving celebration. The Romans honored the goddess of corn. The Hebrews gave thanks for abundant harvest with the 8-day feast of the tabernacles. So the pilgrims, this was a natural thing for them to do at harvest time, to have this Thanksgiving celebration. But the truly amazing thing about this first Thanksgiving dinner in Plymouth is, why would the pilgrims even want to do it after that winter and that incredible summer where they lost half of their family and friends? I mean, let me ask you, after losing so much, would you still want to have a dinner of celebration, giving thanks and praise? Think about it. We've been going through some losses in this church recently. I was just having a conversation the other day. I remember my dad passed away on November 15th. And that year when he died, it was 2008, Thanksgiving and Christmas were just a blur. My heart wasn't in it. And then the next year, I felt the incredible anguish of him not being there. It was beyond the shock and then into the grief and the loss. So think about what these people were doing. They not only were saying, we're going to have a Thanksgiving dinner, but we're going to invite all the Native Americans who are in this area to come join us. That is really one of the true